everybody, it's me, Laura, and today we're doing another one of those Polymer Clay Zentangle canes. That's right, yes, I'm back with another one, and it's been kind of a little while since I've done this, right? So we're going to start off right away with two of my little rolled up, you might say plugs in polymer clay, my black and my white, and both of them are about 1.25 inch in diameter, and then they're about an inch tall, right? Or an inch in height, if you will. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take this one, the white here, and I'm just going to start cutting it into a cube. Once I've got this cut into a really nice square though, I'm going to use this as my guide to go ahead and cut the round one, the black round one as well. And so I just place it right on top, and I thought I'm just a little bit off on the one side, so I'm just kind of shaving off a little bit of white just to get it to where I like it. Then I'm going to use that as my guide to cut down and cut off all four sides on the black one, creating my black cube as well. Now, when I went and made these two cubes, I did not measure them. I think they wound up being maybe 1 inch in diameter all the way around. And then I decided to use that as also a guide in cutting out my silver square as well, or my silver cube. I wanted to have, I thought I'm going to be doing a black and white cane, but yes, I need my silver. So that's what I did as well. I made a 1 inch cube of that. Once I had that though, I decided on the silver, I'd mark it from point, or I should say from corner to corner, and do it on both sides. Once I had that, I thought, yay, I'm going to go ahead and cut in just a little bit on two sides where it's not quite such a deep triangle, if you will. And I thought this would work pretty good. This is my first approach in creating this particular cane. And I thought, well, this might work really good. Out of the two approaches, this was my least favorite. And call it the thing of where when I cut out those two triangles, they were not precision, right? They weren't precise. And in this cane, I really needed more of a precision on those particular, I should say small, rather thin triangles. And so when I went to go and cut out that same particular piece in the white here, it worked, but it just wasn't, it just didn't work as well as I had hoped. Okay, so, but I wanted to give you guys an idea of what I went through on this particular cane. It was a little difficult to figure out at first. You would think it's very simple, but sometimes the simplicity is misguiding. It's not as simple as you think, right? And yet it worked out pretty good. I found that this was really nice in the regard that if I didn't want to rely on my ruler heavily, this was a good way to approach it. But I eventually got down to the point where I thought, no, I need a ruler to really come in and do it up smartly. And part of it was because every time I placed the main two cut-off triangle pieces in the center part, when I did that, I wasn't really happy with the overall look of it, okay? It just didn't look quite right to me. And what I mean by that is, here's the thing. The cutoff part, the shorter part on those cutoff triangles, they were not matching up. That's really what was bugging me. It didn't match up right. It didn't look quite right. You need to make those two cutoff areas, those shorter triangles that have been cut off, you need to make sure that they match up when they come together. And that was the thing that was really bugging my eye. So in this regard, the one thing I did do different here was I brought in my black, and that black has been rolled out on a number 4 setting on my Atlas pasta machine, and then took my two white triangles here and just outlining them with that piece of black. And it worked, but to me it seemed like it was more time consuming. And because I cut down where I went to each side and made that little cut in the center, it was okay, but I thought there's got to be an easier, more simpler way to do this. So this was my first attempt at it. I thought, let's go ahead and try it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you guys go ahead, watch my hands talk as I complete up trying to do the woodlock pattern in this particular version. Okay, so let's go ahead and try this cane one more time with a different approach. I have my white clay here. It's been rolled out on my #1 setting on my Atlas pasta machine. So that is the second largest opening on my pasta machine. And all I'm going to do, this is like about 2 inches in width, and it's fairly long. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fan fold it, so about an inch wide. So 1, 2, 3, and it's going to be 4 folds of this, and then you cut off that extra end, okay? So when you do that, I wound up with a 1/2 inch tall of this particular white, if you call it fan fold. And then I just decided to go ahead and cut off the edges, make it all nice and neat, just as long as I had about 1 inch in width, okay, and a 1/2 inch tall. That was my main consideration. Now, I did go 2 inches deep, but really when I look at this, you only need 1 inch. However, keep that extra inch because you might use it later for another pattern. Now, once I got this white brick kind of figured out, I'm going to do the same with my black. So again, this is rolled out on a #1 setting on my Atlas pasta machine, 4 folds, cut it off, and then you should have a 1/2 an inch in height, 2 inches in length, and 1 inch wide. So that should give you a good idea as to the dimensions I'm dealing with. Eventually, though, both of these bricks, you're going to cut them in half, so really you only need 1 inch when it comes to length. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to measure out 1/4 of an inch from both sides. So you should have a 1/2 inch in the center, okay, but 1/4 inch from the edges on both the white and the black brick. Once you have kind of a little indent with your blade made on the top there, you're going to go ahead and do the same thing with the black brick. Once those lines are made, bring your blade down towards the corner on the black brick and do the same with the white. This way then you're creating a small wedge or a triangle piece, and when you go to cut down, you're going to cut down from that 1/4 inch on top and then make a similar indent on the side of the black brick, giving you a guide to cut off that small triangular piece from that brick. And do the same on the other side. So you can kind of see there, it's just like a little bit of a kind of a wedge. Then bring in my silver brick, which has been cut to the same dimensions as the black and white bricks. Now, as you can tell here, I'm going to cut from corner to corner as close as I can all the way down. I'm going to reform it, and then I'm going to cut diagonally the other way. And this way then it will give me my 2, kind of, you might say, shallow triangle pieces. And that's really what I need. I need those 2 shallow triangles. Now, once I have that though, I'm going to put both the black and the white together, and then I'm going to bring in some of this black clay. It was rolled out on a #4 setting on my Atlas pasta machine, and I'm just going to lay it right in there and then use my knitting needle to make sure I make a nice heavily indented area. You can use your blade here too. That's what I did here, and that works really good. I just need to have a nice line that kind of connects that black and white piece. Once I have that, I'm cutting off the little extra parts. I'll even come in with my scissors here and cut off the black that's kind of sitting above the 2 canes, because I thought I can use my blade, but I just love my scissors. My scissors comes in so handy for me. Why not use it, right? But once I have that, I went ahead and put another piece of that black clay, again rolled out on that #4 setting. Make that needle kind of just lay in there, make sure it's a nice indent, and again, just trim it all up. Now, once this is all trimmed up, you're going to take those 2 silver shallow triangles and place them right into the indented areas on that black. Once you have those placed into the indented areas though, you're going to look at it and right here you can see it's just slightly where the black is overtaking it. You want to place in another piece like I did right there. Just took off a little sliver of my silver, placed it over the area that still needed some more of that silver, and then I'll use my blade to go ahead and trim it up on the side. Just make sure it's, patted down really nicely. It's kind of meshed in together. Now, once I have this gray kind of put in, I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. And then once I have that section put in, and I'll have to add in a little more gray here, once I have that completely trimmed up and all together, I'll take this entire cube, or I should say this cane, and then I'll take some black and I'll roll out a piece of that black on a number 4 setting with my Atlas pasta machine, and then wrap this entire thing all the way around. Okay, so I wasn't going to show this, but I thought I really should. And part of it is, this is me reducing this particular cane down. I struggled a lot, and part of this is just practice. I had gotten out of practice reducing cane, and it can happen. If you haven't done it in a while, going back to reducing, you're like, wait a minute, how did I do that again? Yeah, well, this is something to kind of learn by in my example. If you get a chance, play in the clay when you can, but also, work with some canes if you can, because you do have to almost, at least for me, sometimes every once in a while, I got to relearn how to do caning. Especially on reducing. I'm like, oh, that's right. I have to reduce down the square. It's different from the circle, and I had gotten this down to 5.5 inches, and I was like, okay, let's take off the ends. And really, when you're doing this, this was pretty small already. I started not with a huge cane, but that was intentional. I don't want to use up a lot of extra clay if the pattern's not something I'm going to use over and over and over again. And right here, I just thought, if I start a little smaller, it's going to be okay. Well, remember to cut off your ends and cut off shallowly, okay? So cut off to the point where you're doing slices, but you want to get to the pattern. And right here you see I'm starting to get back to the original pattern, and I thought, yeah, that's probably good enough. Let's bring in the ruler, measured it off, cut it in half, and this way then I'll have 4 pieces all together. Now, each of these pieces, when I went to go about measuring them, they wound up being about 3/8 of an inch in diameter, and really I was hoping this would turn out well, and it did. It turned out better than I'd even expected. And part of it was because another little thing in caning, I had too soft of a black clay and too hard of a white clay. And when I tried to do this pattern in another version before this time, it didn't look right. It wasn't really great. It wasn't a half and half. I mean, my white was starting to overtake my little black part, and I thought that's not going to work. So remember, make sure your clays are both the same consistency, whether it's hard or soft. I would say though, really overall, make sure it's a harder clay that you're working with, because even when you reduce it down, like right here, this took time. This was a patience thing. You had to have patience. And that's when you have to just say, okay, take our time. Try not to reduce this cane too quickly, because if you do, it might not look right in the end. And that's what I did. I took time. So use your acrylic roller like I do here. I'm pulling this out, and at the same time to squeezing and also pushing along the sides of the cane, making sure that it gets a nice even kind of reducing all the way around. Now, when I do this though too, because it's a little taller than it is, than it is on its width, okay, I need to get it down to about a square form. So both of those canes, as I put them on top of each other, they have to kind of be the same. Again, right here, I'm cutting off my ends, and you can see I've got kind of some junk clay there. I've got a good end now, and I'll do the same. There I got the other one. So again, just cut off slight pieces to get to your pattern. Okay, so at this point, I've cut off about 16 of these little tiles from the original cane and I've baked them. And for many of you who have not seen this, or for those of you who have, I always bake the 16 set of tiles. And this way then I can try and figure out what other patterns I can get just using this particular simpler tile in 16 parts. So I will change them up and turn them around and do all sorts of fun things. The nice thing about this is each of those little tiles would represent one cane. So it would be 16 canes and they would all be positioned like they are, like I'm doing right here currently. This is the original pattern that I'm forming up when it comes to the Woodlock pattern. But I thought, let's go ahead and flip them around and see what we can do. And with that in mind, you have to realize that because I have these 16 tiles and because of the way this cane, the simpler original cane turned out, you can get all sorts of different patterns. I'm going to give you here at the very end of this 10 patterns from this particular set of 16 tiles, but realize that there's a whole lot more. And I mean a whole lot more, many, 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 many patterns that you can get with these 16 smaller tiles. So from here, I will just go ahead. I'm going to let you guys watch my hands talk, and you'll be able to see those 10 patterns that I give you. All right, so in doing this particular pattern, I decided let's go ahead and use a stack. I love my stripes. And I want to say that particular stack was done on a #1 setting using my Atlas pasta machine. If you want to, you can always go back and check how I did this. It's a very early version of playing with stripes and checkers and creating the stack. I have it within my playlist, I do believe, and it might be under the basic canes. So check that out if you get a chance. Anyway, I'm not measuring here, okay? I'm not going to be using my ruler in this version, and part of it was I was just, what do you call it? I was just doing it, right? I'm trying to think of the word, and I can't think of the word. Anyway, this was more than, that stack was, I want to say, wider than 1/2 inch. And sometimes, like I said, I just put the stack or whatever version I've got on top of like the gray here, and I created a second, cut off triangle piece, and then just, mirrored it. And then I brought in the black. I thought, let's go ahead, we'll make that little triangle, and if I have to, pull on the clay and extend it a little bit more till it fills in the gap that I've got going on here. And that's all I did here. Once I had the black on the sides on both of these, you might say cut off triangles, right? Once I had the black on both sides there, I then decided, we'll go ahead, we can reduce it down. And I did eventually reduce this down. I want to say it went down to about, probably 3/8 of an inch in diameter, or a little bit more, maybe a 1/2 inch. And then I went ahead and wrapped the entire thing in silver, and that silver was rolled out on a #4 setting using my Atlas pasta machine. Now, this turned out better than I had expected also. This was one of those that I wasn't, I was struggling so much at the beginning that when I got to this, I thought, I don't care. We're just going to slap it together, right? Every once in a while, you got to just say blank and do it. I'm trying to be good here. Anyway, again, just cutting off those ends, and then from here, the reducing is key. Take your time. Take your time. Take your time. This clay was not as hard as what I had just got done working with, so it wanted to move a lot faster. Take your time. Don't press down quite so hard with that rolling pin. Go a little light if you have to, just lightly, and pull and push, into it where you can. I started going through, when I started creating this particular cane, I remembered, what am I doing? Press around the center and work out. Again, when you don't do a technique much, okay, and you kind of forget how. This is why sometimes being in practice like this, doing this was good. It got my skill set kind of back to where it should be. I should not let it go that long, but I had kind of let it go that long. Anyway, like I said, pressing this and lengthening it out, I'm going to cut this into 8 sections, and then I'm going to take the original, because I had some extra original of this Woodlock cane, because I had extra of that. I went ahead and I cut out, like, I want to say 8 sections of that, or I should say 8 tiles. And we're going to then create some really fun different patterns using the two together. So from here, one more time, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to let you guys watch my hands talk. And then at the very end, I'm going to have 14 patterns this time that you can look at and try out if you wish. Or if you want to, cut out some tiles of your own and see what other patterns you can come up with yourself. Okay, so now I'm bringing in this blue to yellow Skinner blend, and I thought I wanted to try at least one version of the Woodlock pattern in a color of some kind. And so I had this particular Skinner blend, and I thought, let's go ahead and use it. The thing was, and again, my clay was softer than what I wanted it or really needed it for in doing this. And when I flattened this down, I really flattened it. So my Skinner blend was pretty short. And so when you look at the versions that I have laid out here for you, you're going to see there's just a tiny amount of that color, and it seems like the white seems to overwhelm it, and it really does. So again, go with a harder clay, and when you're doing your Skinner blend, try to make that Skinner blend where it's not particularly soft, soft, soft. You want this to be a little bit of a harder clay, and in that regard, yeah, it's kind of like do as I say and not as I've done. Maybe that's the best way to put it, right? But again, I'm taking that cut off little triangle piece in the color, and the same with the white here. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this thing in the black. I'm going to put that where I have it going all the way around, and it makes a big difference. It makes a big difference, especially, like I said, you're going to see a huge difference with this white because the white was a lot harder. That color was not. It seems to want to overtake, but the idea here was to give you the idea of what kind of patterns you can get if you were to use, say, some color, and in this particular case, a Skinner blend cane. So from here, one more time, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to let you guys watch my hands talk and create up some more of the Woodlock, this time using a Skinner blend colored cane. Okay, so these are just a few examples of me creating my Polymer Clay Zentangle cane, the Woodlock canes. Please use this for study and reference, and if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and leave me a comment. I'm always wondering what you're thinking. Otherwise, I am sending out my biggest hugs to each of you, and I hope you have a fantastic day.